Hello everybody. Today we are talking about pawn storms and how we should handle those positions when the kings have castled on opposite flanks. The mechanics of pawn storms today I will discuss with you folks. I will show you some very important patterns that you must learn to be able to implement the right moves. We will also deeply engage with the material. We will ask why questions and try to find deeper connections. I believe in the value of this training because the knowledge you will receive from this video, you will be able to apply it to your games because this is a very common theme. When the kings castle on opposite flanks, you will inevitably get those positions, and I want you to understand the whys behind the moves today to be able to apply it. Okay, folks, I made another video about this concept. I will post a link here on this video. It was part of the deep learning series, and you will also connect it today's episode. It's Fischer versus Larson game. Right now we are looking at it's white to play, and please formulate a plan for white in this position, folks. That's a very classical dragon structure, Sicilian dragon. The kings have castle on opposite flanks. That's a very common theme, of course. And here we are searching for a good plan for white. How do you think Fischer played this position? Folks, you're a great player if you came up with the idea of h4. Why? I want you to explain to me why. Not only memorization, but what's the function of this move? Put in the words, please. Very simply, I want to go h4, h5, open up my rooks, and attack against your king. What is the goal in this position for both sides, right? What is the orientation phase? What are you seeing? Already from here, right? The king's castle opposite flanks. So the idea of the entire middle game is to be able to attack the enemy king and checkmate the enemy king. That's as simple as that. That's your goal from this position. And h4 is giving you that idea because very simply, your rooks want to involve in the attack. Plus, what you will learn from this example, we see Garry and Harry, right? So Harry is rolling forward and meeting Garry along the way. So this Garry G pawn is a hook pawn already here, right? You look at the pawn structure, black has a hook pawn that white can use to open up lines, to open up the H file for their rooks. That's exactly why he goes h4 in this position, a very standard way to play in a Sicilian dragon, obviously. Now, Larson played queen b5 in the actual game because he also wants to play a5, a4 to chase the bishop and then play b3 to open up lines against the white king. Now we understand one thing, right? It becomes a race, which is a very typical theme in those middle games. Every single tempo is crucial in such positions, so there is no time to waste. You have to go for your own attack. Oftentimes, counter-attack is the best defense, and you'll see the value of time in this position. How do you think Fischer continued here, folks? You tell me the next move. You're a great player if you found the move h5. It's as simple as that. The value of time becomes huge in a position like this. The value of attack becomes huge. So Fischer doesn't mind sacrificing a pawn for that cost, basically. Yeah? So a knight takes h5. What would be their next move if they took on h5? You tell me. Yes, very simply take the bishop. And then what's the next move? Very simple, chase the knight away because now my queen and rook wants to involve on the h file, right? So at the cost of a single pawn, white has opened up the h file, and now the end is near because white's attack is coming first. And how do you follow this position, folks? Yes, g5, removing the guard. There is only a single square left for the knight to stop the checkmate, but now you tell me, how should white play in this position? That's a very typical theme in a dragon. Yes. As Fischer said, against the dragon, you go h4, h5, sack, sack, and mate. That's exactly what's going on here, folks. What's the next move here? Obviously g6. You see the function of this bishop involved in the attack as well, right? It's an amazingly beautiful piece, of course. Takes. Now the black king is so lonely. You go h6 check, of course, and the next move is rook g1, and mate will follow. You see, folks, this was the entire plan for white. That was this road was paved in with the move h4, h5, and white's attack is coming first. So black has to be so careful in handling this position. That's exactly why Larson plays rook c8 in the actual game. But now Fischer takes on g6. Why? Because now the h file has been opened up. White's attack is coming first. And how do you follow it up from this position? of course g4, and you want to go forward, chase that knight away, and go for a direct attack. Do you see? g5, our attack is coming first. It's as simple as that. Knight h5, and can you tell me, folks, please stop the video and find Fischer's next move. How do you intensify and continue the attack? You don't want to give the initiative to black, right? Because if you wait, black will push a4, so there is no time to waste. You're a great player, folks. If you found the move rook takes h5, of course, that defensive knight disappears, and now this g-pawn is ready to roll. And now you again see, right, the function of this bishop. The black king is naked, and our attack is already decisive. There's nothing black can do here. Take on f7, king f8, bishop e3, very simple move. Now there's a threat of queen takes d6, also such ideas like bishop h6, bishop g5. Again, this pawn is huge. Black's counterattack is not starting anytime soon. The bishop also gains this square on d5. Everything is so secure. d5 was forced, otherwise queen d6 just finishes the game off. And here, Fischer is showing us the entire technique in the endgame, yeah? Attacking the rook. Very quickly, I will show you the moves here, folks. The final phase, take the rook, enter d7, and final move, queen d6. And here Larsen resigned, because if he does this, then comes queen h6 mate. What a beautiful mate, right? That's what I mean. The king is naked, and the king's safety is the most important thing in a position like this. And after this, rook g1 check, of course, every single white piece is involved, and it's gonna be a mating attack very, very soon, folks. Look at this. Mate on the board. So already going back to this position, folks, h4, h5 is a very standard thing to play those positions. And I want you to first of all identify the reasons why, because this will connect to our entire episode today, right? In those positions, the value of a single pawn is not important. Those pawns are indeed piece of wood that is getting in the way of our pieces. So oftentimes, the best policy is just to go sacrifice that pawn to activate our pieces. Haven't seen the Fischer game. It's white to play here, folks. Again, we are seeing kings on opposite flanks. It will be a pawn storm position. So please formulate a plan for white in this position. How would you treat this position? You're a great player, folks, if you came up with the move g4, because that pawn is a hook pawn on h6, and white simply wants to go g5 and open up the g file as soon as possible, right? And white says, please take my pawn. Please take my pawn, which happened in the actual game. Because now, as a result of a single pawn sacrifice, white has activated the rook with tempo. And our attack is starting first. In a position like this, that's all it counts. A single pawn is not important at all, folks, in this position. And here, how do we intensify our attack? How do we put more pressure? Great, if you found the queen e3, folks, because this creates a huge threat of queen takes h6, and after king h8, the final phase, the final action begins. Can you see a great way for white to start a direct assault against the black king? You're a great player again, folks. If you came up with the move rook takes g7, rook sacrifice, because the king is completely naked in this position, queen h6, and mate will follow. What did we learn from this example? Again, to my mind, it's a very simple lesson. You look at the rook pawn on h6, and this is giving us a signal to go g4, g5, open up lines, and activate our pieces. If you wait even for a single move, if you start with this move, then you give black a chance to play b5 and to gain this d5 square for their pieces. For example, like this. And now knight d5 is a potential idea for black in this position. Maybe a6 to activate the rook as well. You see, even waiting for a single move can be wrong for white in a position like this, because now after g5, black will take. You cannot take on g5 yet because the queen and the bishop. And now after h4, there is a move like knight f4. You see, that knight gained control of the central square, and now they are creating counterattack. So my point is this. It looks innocent. I can play rook g1, maybe h3, g4, but every single tempo is crucial in such positions. So yes, ideally, you want to go g4 in this position, not to lose any time, to make those pawns have contact. Garry meets Harry very, very soon, right? And if they take our Garry pawn, then our rook is very happy and their king is suffering. Now, folks, you learn your lessons. It's black to play. It's a very sharp position. Kings on opposite flanks. White just played h4. They are signaling, Harry will meet Garry very, very soon, so there's no time to waste. There's no time to waste. I want you to stop the video here and please formulate a good plan for black. You're a great player, folks. If you looked at the pawn structure, if you looked at the hook pawns on a3 and c3, and you came up with the move b5, beautiful move. Beautiful move, because your pawn simply wants to have contact with those hook pawns, because your goal is to open up lines on the queen side, isn't it? You formulate your goal first. What's your goal? There's no time to waste. I want to activate all my pieces and attack against the white king. So given this orientation phase, reverse engineering, you find the move b5. Should they capture the pawn? Should we be worried? No way, right? Please take my pawn, you say. Please take my pawn, because now your rooks are going to be so happy to see this move. White is wasting precious time capturing your pawn, and as a result, your rooks are getting the file first, and your attack is starting first. Queen d3 doesn't work because of a knight is hanging on b3, and after queen a4, that's the only way to guard the knight. But look at the queen, right? The queen itself became a liability. So what's our next move? Of course, knight b6. Every single piece is coming to the queen side, and they are wasting even more time. The queen will be hit with moves like knight c4, and you see what's going basically. There is no way for white to hold the position anymore. Bishop takes c3, and things are just falling apart for white on the queen side. So going back, folks, going back, how do you find the move b5? By reading the board properly, by looking at those hook pawns. b4 is coming next. If they don't do anything, let's say if they go h5, then you go b4 yourself, right? That's your main point, of course. And if they take, you take back with the f pawn, and your king is momentarily very safe, because there is no way for white to generate a mating attack against your king. But your attack is starting on the other side very, very soon, right? For example, b takes a3. I open the b file. Very simple chess, in fact, yeah? Takes. After b8-3, you go rook b8, and that was your goal from the initial position, right? That's why you open the b file. And now they are suffering. There are so many tactical ideas. Even here, guys, for example, moves like this. Rook takes b3, takes, bishop takes b3, and then comes the beautiful knight fork, right? Once your attack is starting first, once you have the initiative, you will have ideas like this in a position like this, right? White cannot hold the position anymore. That's a beautiful tactical operation, and black is winning the game directly. But in this position, if you instead play a4, then it's not the same, because after knight d4, let's say takes, well, you're first of all facing this problem of d5. Second of all, b5, b4 is not happening anytime soon. You wasted one full tempo. You could have played b5 directly, and now it will be difficult for black to achieve this plan, because now if you go b5 to be able to play b4, well, first they will chase the queen, and then they will go d5, right? And look at your bishop on a6. That's a trap piece. If you go knight c5, they will take, and then they will take the bishop, and white is gaining material. You see, the point is this. In a position like this, there's a huge difference between moves like a4 and b5. b5 is a pawn sacrifice, so many players would refuse to play this move. But now I want to change your whole perception. What you're learning from this video is that you're devaluing value of pawns in a position like this, but you actually overvalue piece activity and the king's safety. That pawn is a piece of wood that is getting in the way of your rook, so please sacrifice it. Please sacrifice it ASAP, and your attack is starting first before it gets too late on the other side. Folks, let's talk about some chess crimes. I've seen many players go wrong in such positions. It's white to play, and black is signaling an attack on the king side, right? Your knight is terrible. They place all of their rooks on the king side, and that's a pawn storm position. We want to ideally attack the black king, but we have to be also careful about this push g4. Now, I give you two choices. Do you go queen a4 or do you go f3 in this position? Right? Two choices. Please stop the video, judge for yourself, and come up with a good solution, please. Folks, f3 will be a chess crime. I've seen many players play like this. First of all, it loses time in a very sharp position. Second of all, it creates another hook pawn for black to open up lines with g4, right? And finally, you're also killing your knight on h2, right? So the lesson is this: in sharp positions like this, playing moves like this won't help you at all. It will only accelerate the attack of the opponent. For example, you go f3 and they push g4 directly, and now they are getting ready. Inevitably, there will be open files for black on the king side, right? And if you take, and you only helped the black rook on h8. If you take again, look what's going on here. You lose. Well, they sack the exchange, but then look at this. Queen h6 is one idea. Knight g4 comes with tempo. Knight e3 ideas are there. Your king is suffering in this position. Queen h6 creates a huge threat of queen h2, and there is no way for white to hold the position anymore. So what's the lesson? Instead of move by move stuff, the main lesson should be this, right? In a sharp position like this, the best defense is counterattack and not playing moves like this. That only helps the opponent's attack. The counterattacking was queen a4, of course, right? Because I want to attack. I want to start my attack on the other side of the board. You see, that's a basic lesson I want you to extract from this video. In those positions, counterattack is the best. After king b8, tell me one more move that creates an attack, support an attack on the queen side. Yes, simple chess. Your worst placed piece joins the action directly, and g4 is the only way for black to fight, but you will play h4, you will try to close it as soon as possible, and now if you have one more tempo for white, you will go g3 and you will shut down everything. But of course, black will play g3 themselves. You will take, you open up your rook by the way as well, and then knight f3. Your knight is now back into the game. After rook g8 comes knight g5. You cloak the g file, and now your attack is starting on the queen side very, very soon, right? So this was the whole point of this session, of these puzzles, that I want you to give you this mental tool, right? Or this approach, how to play such sharp positions. Moves like this won't save you guys. You need much more active approach. Folks, let's talk about a very important pattern to play the pawn storm positions. You're looking at the padlock formation. Ignore the kings. There could be more pieces on the board. I want you to only focus on these 4 pawns right now, right? This ensures that black will keep everything closed, because if you go g5, then they will go h5 and everything is closed, right? White cannot open up files on the king side. And if you go h5, they will go g5, and again, they will shut down everything on the king side. So for defensive side that wants to protect their king, this formation is quite healthy, because that's a padlock formation that ensures that things will be locked up on that side of the board. And now I will show you how we can build on this. For example, this position, folks, it's white to play. Let's go through this position together, the orientation phase. The kings have castled on opposite flanks. So what's the goal? The goal is to be able to open up lines on the king side and start an attack against the black king. That's my goal as white in this position. So what move gives me that option? Which move is the good move here for us to ensure that it will be open up lines on the king side, right? And many players go wrong here because they automatically play moves that they've seen somewhere. For example, they go h4 directly. This is a mistake. Why? It looks like a beautiful move because maybe you will go g5, h5. You will open up lines on the king side. What should black play in this position? That's a nice defensive puzzle as well. Black wants to keep everything closed on the king side. So the right move for black is h6. And now you see the padlock formation we just learned, right? By going h6, black ensures that everything will be locked up on the king side, because now we have only 2 pawn breaks left. Let's say if you go g5, they will go h5. You see, everything is locked up. And if you go h5 here, folks, they will go g5. And again, they are securing their king by keeping everything closed on the king side. Then black will try to open up lines. It's not easy, of course, on the queen side, but at least, right, white cannot win this game by a direct assault against the black king. Everything is locked up. So white did not achieve their goal from this position. Again, if you, let's say, make a random move, a4, to shut down the queen side, well, again, black will play h6, and no matter what you do on the king side, things will be locked up, right? If you go g5, they will go h5. There is no way for you to open up lines. And if you go h4 here, that's already a padlock pawn formation, right? Black doesn't need to do anything in this position. You see, that's a very typical pattern in those, let's say, King's Indian formations with pawns on f4, right? When those 4 pawns are eyeing each other. That's a very important pattern to remember. So, given this orientation phase, given that now you know what is not working for white, Please stop the video and find that move that ensures that things will be opened up on the king side. You're a great player, folks. If you found the move g5, g5 is a great move because now black can no longer create the padlock formation. And what's your plan? Yes, h4, h5 is my plan, and Harry will meet Garry in its position, and your rook will become happy on the h file. Yeah, Garry, Harry, happy. Yeah, maybe you can already have some acronyms like this. Right, so h4, h5 is coming, and there's no way for black to avoid this. If they go h5 to shut down everything, obviously, we have gods have created the en passant rule, then we can take on h6, and then we can go rook g1, and right, we will put enormous pressure on the king side by using our pieces actively. So let's look how else black can play this position after g5. If h5 is not working, let's look at some of the random lines. For example, rook b7. What's your goal? h4. If they keep waiting, you go h5, right? That's how it works. Harry meets Garry, and your rooks will be active on the h file. White is reaching their goal in its position. That's a very beautiful position to contemplate, right? Like this also teaches us so many nice patterns, but also the opponent's resources. For example, if you make a waiting move, black's goal was to play h6 here and shut down everything on the king side, right? So that's a critical moment for white. White cannot slip. White has to play g5 and then play this position on the king side. Now, having talked about the padlock formation, I will show you a game between Keres and Botvinnik. Black to play, folks. My question is this. Do you think it's safe for the black king to castle long in this position? I made another video, and that was your homework position in that video, so we can discuss this now all together. Do you think that's a safe option for black to castle long? Do you think your king will be attacked on the queen side if you castle long? Please stop the video and tell me. You're a great player, folks. If you found Botvinnik's move, castle long. Why? Why is this a secure spot for the black king? It's simple as that. Those 4 pawns are in padlock formation. So if white goes b6, you go a6, and you close everything on the queen side. If they go a6, you go b6, and everything is shut down on the queen side. Your king is very, very, very secure on the queen side, right? So Botvinnik, of course, he knows this pattern by heart. He sees that. That's why he castles long, and he gets his rook directly into the action. And Keres couldn't find a way to break through, and black won this game in the end. You see a practical significance of knowing your patterns, such as padlock formation, to make practical decisions. Let's discuss one more team, folks, and let's do some space repetition. I've shown you this position in my video series, Sicilian Patterns. Black to play, I will give you, let's say, 2 choices. Maybe 3 choices. Bishop takes b2, c takes b2, or knight takes d5, right? You have 3 choices, folks. I want you to stop the video and please tell me which one is the right move and why. Why? That's always a key question in this series, folks, in my videos generally. Please stop the video and think for yourself first. Folks, you're a great player if you found the move knight takes d5. You avoid creating an umbrella. You want to activate your knight and you want to keep the tension on the board. If you take with this guy, that would be a terrible move because after, let's say, queen e3, well, look at your pawn on b2. You created a shield for the white king. The king on b1 is so happy to see your pawn on b2, right? By taking back with the pawn, you have secured the white king. This pawn is a piece of wood that is getting in the way of all of your pieces on the queen side. So when we talk about pawn storm mechanics, we have to talk about the umbrella pawn and their function. These pawns are called umbrella pawns, and it's only serving the defending side. It is clearly visible from this position. If you take back with the bishop, it's the same because after knight takes, you don't want to trade the queens. Thus, after this move, again, right, queen d2 or queen e3, and white is so happy to see your pawn on b2. The king is so secure on b1. So when you're playing those positions, attacking positions, right, you should generally try to avoid his attacking side to create such shield pawns. One of your own pawns can be protecting the enemy king, and knight takes d5 nicely keeps all the tension on the board, and you put pressure on the white king on b1. All of their pieces are tied down in defending b2, and you want to keep it as such. Folks, white to play in this position. Please stop the video and formulate a nice plan for white. Kings have castled on opposite flanks, and how can this be used to find a great plan for white? Please tell me the right move. You're a great player if you went beyond the surface structures and found the move b4. This one looks unplayable at first sight, don't you think, folks? Because knight takes b4 is possible for black in this position. But white says, you know what? Shankland Rule. This pawn move is so logical for me because I want to open up lines that I saw your tactical idea and I'm going to play it anyways. Because after queen b2, look what you created. You opened up the b file by force, and now they need to lose one more tempo with that knight, and your attack is starting with full force on the queen side. Going back to this position, folks, b4, first of all, is a very desirable move, don't you think? Because your goal is to just push the pawns, roll the pawns, and start an attack on the queen side. Open up lines for your pieces ASAP in this position. Otherwise, black will start their attack on the king side, right? That's clear already from this position. And you don't shy away from this move just because you see a tactic of knight takes b4. Of course, you can't take back the knight because of this, right? Let's say. And black will emerge with an extra material if you do this, right? You don't want to play like this. But after knight takes b4, you reach your goal anyways because you got this b file pressure. And after, let's say, knight c6 back, you do rook b1. Your worst place piece joins the action with great force, and you sacrifice the pawn in a very timely fashion, and your attack is started first. You captured the initiative, which is everything in a sharp position involving pawn storms. That's a beautiful game, folks. After knight a5, let's say black defends the b7 pawn like this. Can you tell me one more logical move for white here that is totally within our plans? What do you want to achieve here with white? To open up lines. Of course, we go c4, folks. That move also opens up the c file. You want to open up further lines, and after they take on c4, what should we do here? You tell me. You tell me. Yes, removing the defender. Knight takes c4, and this knight on a5 is paralyzed in defending against queen takes b7, and now your knight becomes happy. You're eyeing this square. You put pressure on this knight. Their rook c1 ideas are coming. White is completely winning in this position, and black has no defense left. You see, that's a beautiful part of this position, folks. Many players would refuse to play this move because of a single tactic, knight takes b4, but Shankland Rule tells us that if a move looks unplayable at first sight, if a desirable move like b4 looks unplayable at first sight, we should be stubborn and we should try to make that move work anyways, right? That's a beautiful pawn sacrifice. That pawn was a piece of wood that was getting in the way anyways, and white achieves beautiful coordination and harmony between their pieces. And let's finish with its homework position. That's also a nice retrieval practice because I've given you this position before in one of my previous videos, folks. Let's see how you can remember this position, but not only remember, but actually do you have the right method of thinking when you approach this position. It's white to play. How would you treat this position, guys? It's a pawn storm position, obviously. Kings have castled on opposite flanks. So I want you to create a nice plan for white. What's your goal? And what is that move that makes you reach your goal in this position? Please give me feedback. Did you like this video? I can show you more patterns involving pawn storms. This was obviously the beginning, and I will revisit this concept several times because I know that pawn storms are pervasive in most middle games, right? That's a pattern that repeats itself all the time. But I want you to have deeper connections today in this video and ask yourself the why questions, right? Just to basically summarize. In those positions, the value of pawns are going down. So we have to be willing to sacrifice pawns even more in such situations. Attack and piece activity becomes even more important. Your goal should be to use hook pawns to open up lines for your pieces. This way you avoid chess crimes. And finally, waiting with moves like pawn moves around your king is usually not a good recipe in such positions. That only gives more time to the opponent, and you're creating further weaknesses around your king. So usually the best defense in pawn storm positions is active counterattack on the other side of the board. And this way, this is also why every single tempo is crucial. So there is no time to waste in such positions, right? This will also open up your mind to play less materialistically in chess. Sometimes you can give up material to activate and coordinate your pieces. And looking at these examples are great to also strengthen your skills of playing dynamic chess, folks. Please give me a like and subscribe if you like this video. That's very important for me to be able to generate similar content for you. I'm here to help you improve your game. And if you want to check and if you want to drill further of these examples, please check two of my Chessable courses, The Art of Awakening Pieces and Chess, Crime and Punishment. That also gives us so many similar patterns and mistakes which I've seen in my students' games, and how you change your perception and how you go over those mistakes and fix those thought process errors. Thank you so much, folks. See you.